The Lone Star State is one of the lone bright spots in an otherwise bleak national unemployment picture. Since June 2009, the state of Texas has added half of America's 524,000 new jobs, with more new jobs on the way as national corporations are finding themselves drawn to Texas's friendly regulatory environment and zero corporate tax rate environment. This is a new Washington Post ABC poll, shows more than 1/3 of Americans believe the president's policies are hurting the economy and job creation. Here to discuss are my freedom fighters, Carolyn Heldman, Occidental College political science professor, and Benjamin Powell, Suffolk University economics professor and Independent Institute senior fellow. I am so glad the two of you are here. You are two very bright, well-educated young people from different ends of the ideological spectrum and even different ends of the country. We'll start with Boston first. Why does Texas look so good from Boston?
Well, listen, Texas is doing a lot of things right, and it's not just all new changes with this current governor that's in there. But when we look at the big package overall that Texas provides, they do really well in economic freedom. So it's not just low corporate tax rates, but it's also low marginal tax rates for individuals, low levels of government spending, low levels of unionization. The whole package, the Fraser Institute measures this in the Index of Economic Freedom for the 50 states in North America. And what they find is Texas is the second freest state in the United States.
Well, why don't the big government folks recognize that lower taxes, less regulation produces more wealth, more prosperity, more jobs, and a rising tide lifts all boats? Professor Heldman.
Judge, because it doesn't. What it produces are corporate benefits. But if you look at Texas more closely, they're still ranked 26th out of 50 states when it comes to unemployment. Yes, they are hiring, but where are they hiring? Big oil is hiring. And so Texas is benefiting from the pain of the nation when you have an industry that is posting 40% profit over a one-year time period.
You're talking about
and
big oil. You're talking about corporations that are owned by Ma and Pa and labor unions.
No, we're talking about
big oil, but it's really a corporation that's owned by individual shareholders.
We're talking about some massive companies that are located in Texas. And I should say Texas is not doing so hot. Actually, their wages are 5% lower than the national average, and they also have a higher poverty rate, and fewer folks have health insurance.
I suppose that you could find flaws in almost anything, Ben Powell, but if Texas, the state of Texas alone, has produced more than half the new jobs in the past 6 months, how could anybody say Texas is doing something wrong?
No, I think the part about people in poverty and the lower wage, that part of it's just the composition of the population there and the nature of migration patterns between Mexico and Texas right now. But they're clearly doing something right. Oil industry might be providing a lot of the jobs, but their general environment of economic freedom is good, and the evidence on that in economics is overwhelming. Places that are more economically free do better, they grow faster, they have higher per capita incomes. Basically anything that one would like, they have more of.
Even if Texas is generating more jobs out of one industry, because it happens to be in an area where that industry's natural resources are located, who could complain about that? Who could say it's unfair to single out Texas?
I am complaining because
Texas isn't producing enough jobs?
Because the amount of the price of gas has gone up almost 3 times over since 2009. So hiring in that one state comes at great expense to the rest of the nation when it comes to this too big oil price gouging.
Hiring didn't make the gas prices go up. The gas prices went up.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying cause and effect. I'm saying that they are hiring because that industry is booming, and they are booming on the pain of others during an economic downturn.
What you won't say is you wish that your native California had all this oil, because it would solve some of California's problems.
We've definitely got some oil, but I just don't think Texas is doing so well. If you are poor, then your wages are lower. They're adding a lot of jobs that are low-wage jobs.
Cost of living is lower, too. It's one of the most affordable places in the country because of good housing policy.
Do you reject the argument, however, that less government, fewer taxes means more money for the private sector to invest and will lead to more jobs?
Well, I think that it depends, and we certainly haven't seen that on the national level because we have corporations that have stockpiled $3 trillion. Hiring has stayed stagnant.
We're talking about Texas.
Well, Texas in particular, I don't think that's happening because their tax structure has been the same, but they've been going up and down.
When you have a country that's more free, what we find is income share of the poorest 10% is about the same regardless of level of freedom, but actual wealth of the poorest 10% is much higher in more free places.
All right, I want to switch gears. If you live in a state that protects your right to carry a concealed handgun and you visit a state with strict gun control laws, you check your gun rights at the state border. But that could soon change. A new bill making its way through Congress looks to expand gun rights across state lines. It would let gun owners coming from concealed carry states maintain those freedoms even when they visit states with strict gun laws. Look, I come from New Jersey, and as you know, I was a judge in New Jersey, which has the strictest gun laws in the union. It's almost impossible for anyone other than the police to get a license to carry a gun. But if the right to defend yourself, Professor Powell, is a natural right that comes from our humanity, who is the government, federal or state, to interfere with that?
Well, Judge, I think you kind of set me up there. There's nobody to interfere with it. They shouldn't be. It's your natural right. Until you've demonstrated that you don't have a respect for other people's lives and property by committing a violent act or being certifiably nuts, you should have a right to buy a firearm and to conceal it to protect yourself if you so desire.
Is this a states' rights issue in your view? Should California and New Jersey be able to restrict, but Texas and Wyoming be able to expand? Or is it a natural rights issue that you have the right to defend yourself? It's guaranteed by the Second Amendment. The Supreme Court has said it's a personal right, not a governmental right, and nobody can interfere with it.
Well, Judge, you know that the Supreme Court has not ruled that it is an individual right, but rather a state militia right.
No. It has ruled that it's an individual right in Heller versus the District of Columbia, the famous case from 2 years ago. And then when the city of Chicago thumbed its nose at the Supreme Court shot them down in McDonald versus Chicago. So it is clearly an individual right. The question is, can states make it more difficult or easier, or does it belong to us by virtue of our humanity?
States definitely do that, and we disagree on the interpretation of that. But what I'm concerned about is a state like California, their laws being dictated by a state that has much more relaxed laws. New Jersey, California, Texas, and Illinois would be affected by this. And I do think that it's a state versus federal issue. And I also think it's a problem in terms of guns moving, especially for border states, guns moving down into Mexico.
Do I have a big government liberal defending states' rights? Is that what I'm looking at right now?
I generally do defend states' rights, and in this particular instance, I think that the relaxation of the 2004 assault ban is very telling. Arizona and Texas, those border states had incredible gun violence, an increase, and California did not. Right. And I would prefer to be in California where we're not moving guns down into Mexico.
Ben, is this a conundrum for small government types, for people that believe in state sovereignty, who don't want the federal government to dictate to the states, even if it is an expansion of human liberty, or is it an issue of the individual versus the government, no matter what government it is?
Yeah, so here you've got a little flip-flop with the two of us here. Usually I'd be the one who wants decentralization to the state level. In this case, if the law is improving to protect your natural rights better, and it's coming at the federal level and that enforces it on the rest of the states, I think that's a good thing. I don't get caught up in worrying about the states' rights when it's at the expense of individuals' rights. We should also say something about the economics of this, too. I'm not worried about guns going into Mexico from this as a big deal. If we're going to worry about gun violence in Mexico, we have to address the war on drugs. That's how we're really messing up Mexico. It's not our gun laws here.
Very good point.
Okay.
But then, internally, when states pass concealed carry laws, John Lotz, the economist who's done the most on this, he finds rates of violence go down, whether murders, rapes, robberies, down.
Got it. Carolyn Heldman, Benjamin Powell, it's a pleasure. You both traveled to be here. We appreciate it very much.